I've lived 78 years on this earth. 78 goddamn years. I've built houses with these hands. Strong houses, sturdy houses, houses that would stand through storms and hurricanes and the test of time itself. I've hammered nails into wood until my fingers bled. I've measured and cut and sanded and painted. I've created homes for families, places where children would grow up, where people would make memories, where love was supposed to flourish. And all that time, all those decades of building and creating and crafting, I thought I was building something beautiful in my own life too. I thought I had constructed the perfect home, the perfect family, the perfect marriage. My name is George Thompson, and I'm here to tell you a story that will strip away every comfortable notion you ever had about trust, about love, about the person lying next to you in bed every single night for 45 years. This is a story about betrayal so deep, so profound, that it shattered everything I thought I knew about my existence. This is my story, and God help me, it's one I never want to tell. I married Helen when I was 33 years old. She was 28, beautiful in a way that wasn't flashy or obvious, but real and warm and genuine. Or so I thought. Christ, how wrong I was about so many things. We built our life together. Literally, I built our house with my own two hands, every beam and every board. We had Billy when I was 60, a late blessing we never expected, a miracle child who brought light into our lives when we thought our family building days were behind us. That boy, my son, my Billy, he's 18 now, a young man on the cusp of his own life, and what we've done to him, what his mother has done to him, it makes me sick to my very core. For years, our life was simple. Simple and good and honest. Or at least I thought it was honest. Funny how you can live with someone for decades and not know the first damn thing about who they really are. Every evening, like clockwork, Helen would tell me she was going to have prayer time with Billy. 8 o'clock would roll around, and she'd kiss my cheek and say those same words. I'm going to pray with Billy now, George. We'll be done in about an hour. And I'd nod and smile and think how blessed I was to have a wife who cared so much about our son's spiritual well-being. What a fool. What an absolute, trusting, blind fool I was. The routine was so predictable, so comfortable, that it became like wallpaper. You stop noticing it because it's always there. Every night, every single night, for years. Helen would disappear down that hallway, and I'd sit in my chair, reading the newspaper or watching television. Content in the knowledge that my wife was instilling good values in our boy. I never questioned it. Why would I? She was his mother. She loved him. She loved me. We were a family bound together by love and faith and commitment. But lately, and when I say lately, I mean these past few months, something shifted. I can't even tell you exactly when it started, because the change was so subtle, so gradual, that it was like watching a photograph fade in the sun. You don't notice it day by day. But one day you look at it and realize it's not the same picture anymore. Helen started becoming different. Her voice when she'd announced prayer time had this edge to it, this urgency that wasn't there before. Her footsteps down the hallway seemed faster, almost eager, and the way she'd return afterward. There was something in her eyes, something I couldn't quite name but fell in my gut like a punch. I started lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what was bothering me. Was it just my imagination? Was I becoming a paranoid old man, seeing shadows where there was only light? I'd tell myself that over and over. You're being ridiculous, George. She's your wife of 45 years. She's praying with your son. There's nothing wrong with that. But the doubt, once it plants itself in your mind, it grows like a weed. It spreads and chokes out everything else until you can't think about anything but that nagging, terrible feeling that something is very, very wrong in your home. I remember one night, it was a Tuesday, I think, though what does it matter what day it was? I was lying in bed, and I heard Helen's footsteps going down the hallway. That familiar sound that I'd heard thousands of times before. But this time I really listened. I paid attention. And I heard her knock softly on Billy's door. I heard it open. I heard it close. And then I heard nothing for a long time. Too long. Prayer time had always been about an hour, but this was stretching past that. An hour and 15 minutes. An hour and a half. What kind of prayers take that long? And then I heard it. A sound that made my blood run cold. It was soft at first, barely audible, but it was there. A moan, a groan, low and guttural, and decidedly not the sound of prayer. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst right through my chest. I strained my ears, listening, hoping I was wrong, hoping my old ears were playing tricks on me. But there was again, and again, sounds that no mother should ever make with her son. Sounds that turned my stomach and made me want to vomit right there in my bed. I didn't want to believe it. God, I didn't want to believe it. So I told myself I was hearing things. I was 78 years old. My hearing wasn't what it used to be, and the walls in this old house creaked and settled at night. That's all it was. Creaking and settling. Not moaning. Not groaning. Not the sounds of something so unspeakably wrong that my mind refused to even consider the possibility. But the sounds continued, night after night, sometimes soft and barely there, sometimes louder and more urgent, and I couldn't ignore them anymore. I couldn't pretend they didn't exist. I'd lie in that bed, my fists clenched so tight my knuckles turned white, listening to those terrible sounds coming from my son's room, and I'd feel rage building inside me like a fire. But it was rage mixed with fear and confusion, and a desperate hope that I was wrong about everything. The next day, I'd look at Helen over breakfast, studying her face for any sign of guilt or shame or acknowledgement of what I thought I'd heard. But she was the same Helen she'd always been, making my coffee just the way I liked it, asking about my plans for the day, smiling that smile I'd fallen in love with 45 years ago. How could she be so normal if something so abnormal was happening? How could she act like everything was fine when I felt like my entire world was crumbling beneath my feet? I started watching her more carefully. I noticed things I'd never paid attention to before. The way she'd apply lipstick before prayer time. The way she'd spray on perfume. The way she'd change into a different nightgown. Something silkier. Something more revealing than what she'd wear to bed with me. These little details that had probably always been there, but that I'd never noticed because I trusted her completely. Because I loved her. Because I never had any reason to doubt her. Billy started acting different too. My boy, my son, he couldn't look me in the eye anymore. When I'd ask him about his day, he'd mumble responses and hurry off to his room. He seemed agitated, nervous, like he was carrying the weight of the world on his young shoulders. I'd try to talk to him, to connect with him the way I used to, but there was this wall between us now, this barrier I couldn't penetrate. And I wondered if he knew what I suspected, if he was part of this terrible thing I was beginning to believe was happening under my own roof. The distance between Helen and me grew wider every day. We'd sit at the dinner table in silence, the clinking of forks against plates the only sound filling the room. We'd go to bed at night without touching, without speaking, lie on opposite sides of the mattress like strangers. The warmth and intimacy we'd shared for decades had evaporated, replaced by this cold, terrible tension that made every moment in our home feel suffocating. I started having nightmares. Terrible, vivid nightmares where I'd walk down the hallway and open Billy's door and see things. God, the things I'd see in those dreams would wake me up screaming and sweating and gasping for air. Helen would ask what was wrong, and I'd lie and say it was nothing, just a bad dream. Go back to sleep. But I couldn't go back to sleep. How could I sleep when I was living in a nightmare that felt more real with each passing day? The breaking point came on a Thursday night. I remember it was Thursday because we'd had chicken for dinner, Helen's special recipe that I used to love, but that tasted like ash in my mouth that night. 8 o'clock came around, and Helen stood up from the couch with that familiar announcement. I'm going to pray with Billy now, George. But this time I saw it. I saw the look that flashed across her face. Anticipation. Excitement. Hunger. It was there for just a split second, but I saw it, and it confirmed every terrible suspicion I'd been harboring. I waited 15 minutes after she disappeared down the hallway. 15 agonizing minutes where I sat in my chair, my hands gripping the armrest so hard I thought I might rip them off. And then I heard it again. Those sounds. Louder this time, more obvious, impossible to explain away as creaking walls or settling foundations or an old man's failing hearing. I heard my wife's voice, moaning and gasping and saying things that made my skin crawl. I heard my son's voice too, younger and uncertain, but responding to her in ways that no son should ever respond to his mother. I stood up. My legs were shaking so badly, I wasn't sure they'd support my weight. But somehow they did. I walked down that hallway, each step feeling like I was walking to my own execution. My heart was pounding in my ears, so loudly I could barely hear those terrible sounds anymore. But they were there, growing louder as I got closer to Billy's door. I stood outside that door for what felt like an eternity. My hand raised a knock, frozen in indecision and fear and rage and heartbreak. And then I did it. I knocked, not softly like Helen always did, but hard. 3 sharp raps that echoed through the hallway like gunshots. The sound stopped immediately. There was scrambling on the other side of the door, rustling and frantic movement, and hushed whispers. I knocked again, harder this time, and my voice, when I finally found it, came out as a roar. Open this door. Open it right now. More scrambling, more whispered panic. And then the door opened, just a crack, and Helen's face appeared. Her hair was mussed, her lipstick smeared, her nightgown askew. She looked at me with wide eyes, feigning innocence, feigning surprise at my anger. George, what's wrong? We were just... Don't, I said, my voice shaking with fury. Don't you dare lie to me right now. Open this door. All the way. She hesitated, and in that hesitation, I saw everything I needed to see. Guilt, fear, the knowledge that she'd been caught. She opened the door wider, and I looked past her into Billy's room. My son was sitting on his bed, sheets pulled up to his chest, his face flushed and guilty and terrified. The room smelled of perfume and sweat and sex, and I wanted to burn it all down right then and there. What the hell is going on here? I demanded, my eyes moving between my wife and my son. What the hell have you been doing? Helen put on her best offensive face, that look she perfected over the years when she didn't want to admit she was wrong about something. George, you're overreacting. We were just praying and... Praying? I laughed, but it was a bitter, terrible sound that didn't contain any humor at all. You expect me to believe that's what you were doing? I'm 78 years old, Helen, not brain dead. I heard you. I've been hearing you for weeks. Those weren't prayers. Those were... I couldn't even say it. I couldn't give voice to what I knew was happening because saying out loud would make it real, and part of me still desperately wanted to believe I was wrong. But I wasn't wrong. I could see it in her face. I could see it in Billy's face. I could see it in the way the room looked, in the air that hung heavy between us all. This had been going on for God knows how long, right under my nose in my own home, between my own wife and my own son. Get out, I told Helen, my voice low and dangerous. Get out of this room right now. She started to protest, started to reach for me, but I stepped back like her touch would burn me. Get out! I roared, and she flinched and hurried past me into the hallway. I looked at Billy, my boy, my son, and he couldn't meet my eyes. He stared at his hands, at the floor, at anything but me. Dad, he started, but I held up my hand. Not now, I said. I can't talk to you right now. I can't even look at you right now. I closed his door and walked back down that hallway, each step feeling like I was trudging through quicksand. Helen was in our bedroom, standing by the window, her arms wrapped around herself. She turned when I entered, and I saw tears streaming down her face. George, please, let me explain. Explain? I cut her off, my voice rising. Explain what exactly? Explain how you've been molesting our son? Explain how you've been using prayer time as an excuse to... The words wouldn't come. They were too terrible, too horrible to speak. It's not like that, she said, her voice desperate and pleading. You don't understand. Billy and I, we have a connection, a special bond. A special bond? I was shouting now, all the rage and pain and betrayal pouring on me like a flood. He's your son. He's 18 years old. He's a child. He's not a child, she shot back, some defiance creeping into her voice. He's a man, and this isn't something dirty or wrong like you're making out to be. We care about each other. We. Stop. I put my hands over my ears like a child, trying to block out scary sounds. Stop talking. I don't want to hear any more of your sick justifications. What you've been doing is wrong. It's illegal. It's immoral. It's evil. She wiped at her tears, and now I could see anger mixing with her distress. You want to talk about wrong? What about you, George? What about the way you've emotionally neglected me for years? What about the way you stopped seeing me as a woman and started seeing me as just a housekeeper and cook? What about the loneliness I felt lying next to you night after night, wanting to be touched, to be desired, to be loved, and getting nothing? Her words hit me like physical blows. So this is my fault? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. You're saying I'm responsible for you molesting our son? I'm not molesting anyone, she screamed. Billy is a willing participant. He wants this just as much as I do. He loves me. He understands me in ways you never have. I stared at her like she was a stranger, and in that moment, she was the woman I'd loved for 45 years, the woman I built a life with, the mother of my child. She was gone, replaced by this monster I didn't recognize. How long? I asked, how long has this been going on? She looked away, and I could see her calculating whether to tell me the truth or craft another lie. 6 months, she finally said, so quietly I almost didn't hear her. 6 months. Half a year. 180 days of lying to my face. 180 nights of prayer time that was really... I couldn't finish the thought. The numbers swirled in my head, making me dizzy and sick. Every night. I asked, not every night, she said, like that made it better somehow. Sometimes we really did pray. Sometimes we just talked. And the other times, I pressed, even though I didn't want to know, even though the answer would destroy me. She didn't respond, but she didn't need to. I could see the truth written all over her face. I sat down on the edge of our bed, the bed we'd shared for 45 years, the bed where we'd held each other through good times and bad, through sickness and health, through everything life had thrown at us, the bed that now felt tainted and wrong, and like a place I could never sleep in again. I want to know everything, I said, my voice flat and emotionless. I want to know how it started. I want to know why. I want to know every sordid detail. George, please. Tell me? I shouted, and she flinched again. She sat down in the chair across from the bed, her hands twisting in her lap, and then she started talking. God help me. She started talking, and what she told me over the next hour destroyed whatever pieces of my heart were still intact. She said it started innocently enough. She and Billy were having one of their prayer sessions, really praying, talking about his future and his fears and his dreams. And then he'd started crying, overwhelmed by the pressure he felt about college and his future. She'd held him, comforted him like mothers do. But then something shifted. The hug lasted too long. Her hand stroked his hair in a way that wasn't quite maternal. Their eyes met, and there was something there, something neither of them acknowledged but both felt. The next night, she said, she made an excuse to pray with him again, even though it wasn't their usual time. And the hug was longer, more intimate. Her hand moved from his hair to his face, caressing his cheek. He leaned into her touch. She told herself it was wrong, that she should stop, but she didn't. She couldn't, because for the first time in years, she felt wanted. She felt desired. She felt like a woman, instead of just a wife and mother. I listened to all of this with growing horror and rage. Every word she spoke was like another nail in the coffin of our marriage. She described how it escalated, how touches became caresses, how caresses became kisses, how kisses became more. She tried to frame it as something beautiful, something meaningful, a connection between two people who understood each other. But all I heard was a litany of betrayal and abuse and violation. He's your son, I kept saying like a broken record. He's your son, Helen. How could you? And she'd respond with justifications about how age is just a number, how their connection transcended traditional boundaries, how what they had was special and pure. The words coming out of her mouth were insane. She was insane. Or I was. Maybe we both were. When she finally stopped talking, when there were no more horrible details to share, we sat in silence. The clock on the nightstand ticked loudly, marking the seconds of what felt like the longest night of my life. Outside, I could hear crickets chirping and cars passing by and the normal sound of the world continuing on like nothing had changed, even though my entire world had imploded. I want you out of this house. I finally said, George, tonight, now, pack a bag and leave. I don't care where you go. Go to a hotel. Go to hell. I don't care, but I want you out of my sight. This is my house, too, she said, with some of her old defiance returning. You can't just kick me out. Watch me, I said, standing up and moving toward her with such fury in my eyes that she actually backed away from me. After what you've done, after what you've admitted to, you're lucky I'm not calling the police right now. You're lucky I'm giving you a chance to leave with whatever dignity you have left, which isn't much. What about Billy, she asked, and the concern in her voice for him made me want to punch something. Billy is my son, I said slowly and clearly. He's the victim here, even if he doesn't realize it, and I will protect him from you the way I should have been protecting him all along. He's not a victim, she protested. He wanted this. He wants me. He's 18 years old. I roared. You're his mother. You're 63 years old. You're supposed to protect him, not seduce him. What you've done to him, what you've done to his mind, to his understanding of normal relationships, to his ability to trust and love, you've damaged him in ways that might never heal. And you're standing here trying to justify it? Try and make it sound like some kind of love story. She started crying again, big heaving sobs that shook her whole body, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no desire to comfort her, nothing. The woman I'd loved was dead. This creature in front of me was a stranger, wearing her face. Please, George, she begged through her tears. Please don't do this. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. I laughed, and it was the most bitter sound I'd ever made. Fix this? There's no fixing this, Helen. There's no counseling for what you've done. There's no coming back from this. Our marriage is over. It's been over since the first time you touched our son in a way you shouldn't have. I walked to the closet and pulled out a suitcase. Throw it on the bed. Pack. I ordered. Now. She stood there, frozen, still crying, still looking at me like I was the unreasonable one, like I was the one breaking up our family, like I was the bad guy in this nightmare scenario. Pack. I shouted again, and finally she moved. She opened drawers and pulled out clothes, stuffing them haphazardly into the suitcase. She grabbed toiletries from the bathroom. She moved like a robot, mechanically going through the motions while tears continued streaming down her face. It took her 20 minutes to pack. 20 minutes that felt like 20 hours. When she was done, she stood by the bedroom door with her suitcase, looking at me one last time. I love you, she said. I've always loved you. What happened with Billy doesn't change that. Get out, I said, not looking at her. Get out before I change my mind about calling the police. I heard her footsteps going down the stairs. I heard the front door open and close. I heard her car start and pull out of the driveway. And then there was silence. Terrible, heavy silence that pressed down on me from all sides. I sat on the bed and put my head in my hands. And for the first time in decades, I cried. I cried for the marriage I'd lost. I cried for the trust that had been shattered. I cried for my son and the damage that had been done to him. I cried for the life I thought I had, the life that had been revealed as nothing but a lie. I cried until there were no more tears left, until I was empty and hollow and broken. The next morning, I had to face Billy. I dreaded it more than anything I'd ever had to do in my life. How do you talk to your son about something like this? How do you address the elephant in the room when that elephant is so massive and terrible that you can barely comprehend it yourself? He was in the kitchen when I came downstairs. He'd made coffee, and the familiar smell of it brewing was almost comically normal given the circumstances. He looked up when I entered, and I could see he'd been crying too. His eyes were red and puffy, his face pale and drawn. Dad, he started, but I held up my hand. Your mother is gone, I said, my voice hoarse from crying. She won't be coming back. He nodded, not seeming surprised. I heard you fighting. We need to talk, I said. sitting down at the kitchen table. We need to talk about what's been happening. He sat down across from me, his hands wrapped around a coffee mug like it was a lifeline. I'm sorry, he whispered. Sorry for what? I asked. Sorry that you got caught? Sorry that your mother and I fought? Sorry for what you did. All of it, he said, still not looking at me. I never meant for any of this to happen. Then how did it happen, Billy? How did you end up? I couldn't finish the sentence. I couldn't say the words. He was quiet for a long time, and when he finally spoke, his voice was so soft I had to strain to hear him. She made me feel special, he said. She made me feel wanted and understood. I was confused about college, about my future, about everything. And she was there. She listened. She cared. And then it became more than that. She's your mother. I said, for what felt like the 100th time. What she did was wrong, Billy. It was abuse. It didn't feel like abuse, he protested, finally looking at me. It felt like love. That's what makes it so dangerous, I said, trying to keep my voice calm and steady even though inside I was screaming. She's an adult. She's your parent. She has power over you, authority over you. What she did was manipulate you into thinking this was okay, when it absolutely wasn't. But I wanted it, he insisted. I participated willingly. You're 18 years old, I said. She's 63. She's been an adult your entire life. She knows better. She should have known better. And the fact that you think you wanted it shows just how well she manipulated you. He started crying then, his shoulders shaking with sobs. I'm so messed up, Dad. I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know if I love her or hate her or both. I don't know how to feel about anything. I got up and went to him, and I did something I hadn't done since he was a small child. I pulled him into my arms and held him while he cried. He clung to me like a drowning man clinging to a life raft, and I held him tight, wishing I could protect him from all of this, wishing I could turn back time and see the signs I'd missed, wishing I could undo the damage his mother had done. We're going to get through this, I told him, even though I had no idea if that was true. You're going to talk to someone, a professional who can help you process all of this, and I'm going to be here for you every step of the way. What about Mom? He asked through his tears. What about her? I asked, my voice harder than I intended. Is the marriage over? Yes, I said without hesitation. What she did destroyed our marriage. There's no coming back from this. It's my fault, he said, pulling away from me. I ruined everything. No, I said firmly, grabbing his shoulders and making him look at me. This is not your fault, Billy. This is your mother's fault. She's the adult. She's the parent. She made the choice to do what she did. You're the victim here, even if you don't see it that way yet. Over the following days and weeks, the full weight of what had happened settled over both of us like a dark cloud. I contacted a lawyer about divorce proceedings. I got Billy set up with a therapist who specialized in this kind of abuse. I tried to hold our shattered life together while simultaneously trying to process my own grief and rage and betrayal. Helen tried calling. She tried texting. She tried showing up at the house. But I wouldn't see her, wouldn't talk to her, wouldn't give her any opportunity to try to justify or explain or manipulate her way back into our lives. I got a restraining order to keep her away from Billy. She fought it, of course, claiming she had a right to see her son, but the judge saw through her manipulations and granted my request. The divorce proceedings were ugly. She tried to get half of everything, including the house I'd built with my own 2 hands. She tried to paint me as the villain, claiming I'd driven her into Billy's arms with my emotional neglect. She hired expensive lawyers who tried every trick in the book to make her look sympathetic and me look unreasonable. But I had the truth on my side. And slowly, painfully, I told that truth to lawyers and judges and anyone else who needed to hear it. I exposed every sordid detail of what she'd done. I showed the pattern of abuse and manipulation. I demonstrated how she'd violated the most sacred trust that exists between a parent and child. Billy had to testify. He had to sit in a courtroom and answer questions about what had happened between him and his mother. It was torture for him. I could see it in his eyes, but he did it. He told the truth, even when it hurt, even when it made him look complicit. And slowly, painfully, the full picture emerged of a woman who had groomed and manipulated her own son for her own selfish gratification. The divorce was finalized 6 months after that terrible Thursday night when my world imploded. Helen got almost nothing. Some money, some personal possessions, but nothing else. The judge was disgusted by what she'd done. I could see it in his face when he read the verdict. He awarded me everything, including sole custody of Billy, even though Billy was technically an adult. It was symbolic more than anything, but it mattered. Helen tried one last time to talk to me after the divorce was finalized. She cornered me outside the courthouse, tears streaming down her face, begging me to listen to her. "I made a mistake," she said. "I know I did. But George, we were married for 45 years. Doesn't that count for something? Can't we try to work past this?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and I felt nothing. No love, no hate, no anger, nothing. She was just a stranger to me now, someone I used to know a lifetime ago. "You didn't make a mistake," I said quietly. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk at the store. A mistake is saying something hurtful in an argument. What you did was make a choice. You made a choice every single night for 6 months to violate our son. You made a choice to lie to my face. You made a choice to destroy our family. And those weren't mistakes, Helen. Those were deliberate acts that show me exactly who you really are. "I love you," she said desperately. "I still love you. You don't know what love is." I said, "If you did, you never would have done what you did." Love protects. Love nurtures. Love puts the needs of others before your own selfish desires. What you felt wasn't love. It was selfishness and lust and manipulation disguised as love. I walked away from her then, and I've never spoken to her again. I heard through the grapevine that she moved to another state, started a new life somewhere far away from the wreckage she created. I don't know if she's happy. I don't care if she's happy. She's dead to me, and that's how she'll stay for whatever time I have left on this earth. Billy is doing better now. Therapy has helped him understand that what happened wasn't his fault, that he was groomed and manipulated by someone who should have protected him. He's starting to rebuild his sense of self, his understanding of healthy relationships, his ability to trust. It's a slow process, and there are setbacks, but he's fighting every day to heal for what his mother did to him. We don't talk about her much. Sometimes Billy will bring her up, usually when he's struggling with conflicting feelings about her. He loves her because she's his mother, but he hates her for what she did to him. He misses her sometimes, but he's also relieved she's gone. It's complicated and messy, and there are no easy answers. As for me, I'm trying to move forward with what's left of my life. I'm 78 years old. I don't know how many years I have left on this earth, but however many it is, I refuse to spend them drowning in bitterness and anger. What Helen did to our family was unforgivable, but I can't let it define the rest of my existence. I've learned some hard lessons through all of this. I've learned that you can live with someone for decades and not truly know them. I've learned that trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired. I've learned that the people who are supposed to love and protect us are sometimes the ones who hurt us most deeply. I've learned that evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like the person you've been sharing a bed with for 45 years. But I've also learned that healing is possible, even from the deepest wounds. I've learned that my love for my son is stronger than any betrayal. I've learned that starting over is possible at any age, even 78. I've learned that the human spirit is more resilient than I ever imagined. The house I built with my own hands is quieter now. It's just me and Billy, two men trying to build a new life from the ruins of the old one. Prayer time doesn't exist anymore. We can't even hear those words without flinching. But we've created new routines, new traditions, new ways of being a family that don't include the woman who destroyed everything we thought we knew. Sometimes late at night, I still lie awake thinking about it all. I replay moments from our marriage, looking for signs I missed, clues I should have picked up on. Was she always capable of this kind of betrayal? Did I drive her to it with my emotional neglect, like she claimed? Could I have prevented this if I'd been more attentive, more loving, more present? But then I remember what Billy's therapist told me. You are not responsible for her choices. She's an adult who made conscious decisions to do what she did. Nothing you did or didn't do caused this. The blame lies solely with her. And I have to believe that. I have to believe that I'm not responsible for the choices Helen made, for the lives she destroyed, for the trust she shattered. Because if I don't believe that, if I take on that guilt, it will destroy me just like it almost destroyed Billy. So I'm choosing to move forward. I'm choosing to focus on the son I still have, the life we're rebuilding together, the future that's still possible despite the nightmare we've lived through. I'm choosing to believe that there are still good days ahead, still moments of joy and peace, and maybe even happiness waiting for us. But make no mistake, the scars from this will never fully heal. There will always be a part of me that's broken, that can't fully trust, that sees the world through a darker lens than I did before that terrible Thursday night. There will always be a part of Billy that struggles with what happened to him, that questions his own judgment, that carries the weight of his mother's betrayal. This is the cost of what Helen did. This is the price we pay for her selfishness. And it's a price we'll be paying for the rest of our lives. I'm 78 years old. I've lived through wars and recessions and personal tragedies. I've built houses and raised a family and created a life I thought was good and decent and honest. And in one revelation, in one terrible moment of truth, all of that came crashing down around me. This is my story. This is what happens when the person you trust most in the world betrays you in the most fundamental way possible. This is what it looks like when a family implodes from within. This is the pain and anger and grief that comes from discovering that your entire life was built on a foundation of lies. And the worst part, the absolute worst part of all of this, is that I can never go back. I can never unknow what I know. I can never unsee what I saw. I can never unhear what I heard. I'm forced to live with this knowledge, this betrayal, this pain for whatever time I have left on this earth. So here I am, an old man whose life was destroyed by the person who promised to love and honor me until death do us part. Here I am, trying to protect and heal a son who was violated by his own mother. Here I am, picking up the pieces of a shattered existence and trying to build something new from a wreckage. This is my story. And God help me. It's one I never wanted to tell. But maybe by telling it, by speaking this truth out loud, I can start to truly heal. Maybe by acknowledging the depth of betrayal, the scope of the damage, the reality of what happened, I can begin to move forward in a real and meaningful way. Or maybe I'll carry this pain with me to my grave. Maybe Billy will too. Maybe some wounds are too deep to ever fully heal. Some betrayals too profound to ever truly overcome. But we're trying. Every day, we wake up and we try. We try to rebuild. We try to heal. We try to create a new normal that doesn't include the woman who destroyed everything. We try to find moments of peace and joy amidst the wreckage. We try to believe that better days are still possible. And maybe that's all we can do. Maybe that's all any of us can do when our worlds fall apart. Just keep trying, keep fighting. Keep moving forward even when every step feels impossible. This is my story. This is the truth about what happened in my home, in my family, in my life. This is the anger and pain and betrayal that I live with every single day. This is what it means to have everything you believed and destroyed in an instant. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this, one lesson I want you to learn from my nightmare, it's this: trust but verify. Love but keep your eyes open. Believe in people, but don't be blind to their capacity for betrayal. Because the person sleeping next to you, the person you build a life with, the person you trust with everything, they might be hiding secrets darker than you ever imagined. I learned that lesson too late. I trusted too completely. I believed too fully. And it cost me everything. Don't make the same mistake I did. Don't ignore the warning signs. Don't explain away the strange behavior. Don't assume that because someone's been good to you for years, they'll always be good to you. People change. People lie. People betray. And sometimes the person who hurts you most is the one you never saw coming. That's the truth Helen taught me. That's the lesson I learned at 78 years old, after 45 years of marriage, after a lifetime of trust and love and commitment. And it's a lesson that will stay with me until the day I die. Have you ever felt betrayed by someone you loved? How did you deal with it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you ever found out a painful secret in your family, drop a like and let us know how it affected you. Subscribe for more powerful stories like this. And don't forget to hit the bell to stay updated on our latest videos.